Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wicked Pinfalls. We have got a special show set up for you today. Obviously, all things Impact Wrestling. We know Slammiversary is just around the corner, and I'm really excited to have two special guests. I'll introduce Chris Parrish first. Chris, welcome to the show. Obviously, Impact Wrestling, big show coming up. It's starting to kind of be a show where they introduce new characters. It seems. I don't know if that's going to be the same in as much volume as it was last year. But how are you feeling about Slammiversary?
So I just found out the reason why I always miss watching Impact is because I'm always at work and it's always like aired at my time during the day. But I mean, I follow it like online and stuff, and I'll watch what I can. It looks to be like actually a really good card. I'm very stoked to see if something big happens in the main event, which I think there might be. But at the same time, like I think Impact is one of the most underrated companies, whether it's their tag division, which has always stood out to me to being one of the best in pro wrestling, but their women's division always seems to be pretty solid as well, and it definitely deserves attention.
Yeah, especially the women's division. I thought they stepped it up quite a bit. They saw, I think some of the other companies, they didn't give as much attention to the women's division as Impact did, and they saw a gap in the market there. But if there's anyone that can talk about Impact and talk about what's going on there, it's our next guest. It's Dennis Farrell. Dennis, welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling about Slammiversary?
I'm excited. I'm going to have the opportunity to go down. I'll get to sit there. I'm super excited. First Impact show with fans. It's, you know what? I tell you, after looking at this matchup, this should be the main event, the championship match. I feel offended that this is a first round matchup, guys. So whoever put this together, Tad, this should have been the championship, not the first round.
Look, I'm just a referee, as you can see, as is custom. I'm wearing my referee jersey. I'm impartial. When it came to creating the bracket, Throwback was really interested in having you and Chris being in an episode together, and he was worried that one of you might not make it to the finals. If you were on opposite ends of the bracket, would you have made it to the finals, guaranteed?
One of us won't. One of
us. Okay.
Yeah, and Farrell, your suck knob is still stuck on 10, so I had to get the FUBAR reference out there. It was just right there. So I mean, thank you. But yeah, in all fairness, there should be a slam dunk for you because I don't watch Impact. So if you lose, you're gonna eat so much crow that even Sting is gonna have to change up his gimmick.
Listen, I appreciate that. And you're using these words should and could. I don't know what those are. It's will and move on. That's the words I know.
So confident is Dennis in this one. Dennis, just to speak to you from the perspective of you're obviously, in inverted commas, the experienced guy in this podcast in terms of watching a lot of Impact Wrestling, being involved with podcasting that's directly involved with Impact Wrestling. Do you feel a lot of pressure coming to this predictions show, coming up against Chris, who seems to be just here to enjoy, here to cause an upset, here to be the underdog that's going to take out the big giant? How are you feeling nervous at all? What's going on in your head?
I want to give Chris all the credit in the world, which I said at the beginning, this should be the main event, the championship round. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, Chris is just a stepping stone for me to go to the next round and the next round and the next round. I don't even know who the rest of these clowns are in the bracket. That's how confident I am I'm going to win this. I want everybody to learn my name because this is going to be named after me next year.
See, the funny thing is he calls us clowns, but the last time I checked, Doink was always more over than Barry Horowitz. So you can give yourself a pat on the back all you want, but you're still going to be the regular jobber in this tournament.
I'm not calling you the clown. I think you and I...
You kind of insinuated we're all clowns, and that's kind of putting a broad horizon on everything.
The rest of them. I think you and I are the two main eventers here. Unfortunately, only one giant can move forward, and I would have to give the edge to the giant that actually watches the product.
Oh.
So, Chris,
it'd be really funny to see what the giant does if he loses to a guy who doesn't watch the product, because that would be absolutely hilarious.
Oh, my fingers are crossed. I won't lie.
Oh, that's going to be interesting. Now, Chris, going into this matchup, are you thinking tactics wise? Are you picking with your head, picking with your heart? Or, does the fact that there is a championship on the line kind of change how you would ordinarily want to be predicting these things?
Well, my parents, teachers, and mentors growing up saying I should never use my head 100% of the time. So I'm going to listen to absolutely none of them. But no, with that being said, in all seriousness, I'm looking at kind of the direction. I've been looking at the direction of how the show's been going and kind of just seeing who's be getting star treatment kind of going into these shows. I know Impact's really high on Chris Bay, so that's going to view my kind of thought process and how Chris Bay is going to be, viewed in this match, opposed to, I don't know, maybe like someone like Falaba in the tag match where, you got to think he's not really the biggest player story-wise. But then you see a guy like the Good Brothers and trying to remember his name, Carl Anderson, and he had a great showing against John Moxley for that IWGP US title. So you got to think maybe he might not get tagged, but at the same time, who knows? This whole Impact AEW thing seems to be one-sided, so it'll be very interesting.
There is definitely a forbidden goal.
I give you guys nothing because I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm just going to wing it. Real wrestlers call it in the ring, brother, and that's what I'm doing.
I love it. Dennis, from your side of things, I mean, you mentioned the fact that fans are going to be back. Now, does that play a huge factor in how you think the company is going to change direction?
No, I think not for the first month, because it's going to take time for the company to read who the fans are behind, who they're going to support. I don't think even before the first show or even on the first show, they're not going to say, "Oh, we're going to pivot right away." Let's get into a groove. Let's see what these guys' fan reactions are. A couple shows under the belt and move forward.
And speaking of getting in a groove, speaking of moving forward, why don't we move forward to our first matchup this week? It is the men's tag team title match. Obviously, there are multiple teams that got involved in this one. We've got Violent by Design, which is Eric Young, Dina, Joe Doering, or Rhino. They're the champions. They're going to be going up against Rich Swann and Willie Mack, and TJP and Falaba, and then also the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson. Dennis, we're going to start with you. We're going to give you the first swing at this one. How are you feeling about this match, and what prediction are you predicting, and how do you think this match is going to end in terms of a finish?
Well, I think it will be one of those wonky tag team endings. Someone takes out someone hits a finishing move, and you got another guy that slides and takes the pin. I think Violent by Design comes out on top in this match. I look at everybody else, and the only other real tag team here is the Good Brothers, as Chris said at the show. But I really think there's something else going on with them. They won't put the belts on them right away. I think Violent by Design takes this.
And is that pinfall, you say?
Yeah, just pinfall.
Just normal pinfall. Now, Chris, I mean, I don't know if anyone can sum it up more expertly than that, but I'm going to give you a crack at this one. What are you thinking for this tag match? Obviously, last week on Impact, we saw one of those promos where the champions are there, the contenders come out, they lay a claim, another team comes out, they lay a claim as well, and then another, and they eventually end up with this mega tag team match. How are you leaning towards a side heavily, or was this a tough decision for you?
Well, normally when you see a segment like that, they just want the match to be pushed. They want everyone to look strong, and they don't want it to come at the expense of someone else. And usually that can be a sign of even creative not knowing which way we're going to lean, or they don't want anybody else to think they know which way they're going to lean. I like the fact that Violent by Design is using the Freebird rule. I think that gives you not only a lot of options, a lot of creativeness, but it brings you a lot of unknowns. And when it comes to a match like this where you have multiple tag teams, you want to know, okay, who are the two that we're actually focusing on? And since you don't know that until the match comes, that just makes it very difficult for you to get an actual game plan. I like the fact that Violent by Design is not only a real stable, a real group, but they're, in my case, they're kind of like a New Day-esque of the TNA, not in the way that their character and gimmicks are, but just the way that they are presented in that same. I think that they're too dominant right now to lose the tag team titles. They lose a lot if they were to lose the tag team titles. They have momentum, and you shouldn't take it away. I don't think the Good Brothers here need a tag team title. I think this first match back in front of first crowd, you're going to just see an absolute spot fest, and you're going to just see the show and the tone of the show get starting with here. But I think the story remains that Violent by Design is going to retain the titles here because, again, we don't know which guy is in the ring, and we don't know which one. And who knows, they might even surprise you and just call out one guy, have him do a lot of the work, and at the end give you a twist and have it, oh, maybe it's Rhino, maybe it's Eric Young. We don't know. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. That unknown is enough for me to say Violent by Design.
It should definitely be an interesting match, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, it's a clean sweep from my perspective for what it's worth. I do think that Violent by Design still have legs in terms of them holding the championships, and I like the idea of that faction having the titles and forming tag teams, getting them, built up to be able to challenge them. I think you could have a lot of fun there. But Chris, we'll stick with you with the next match. We saw Morrissey attacked Eddie Edwards. I think it was the July the 1st episode of Impact Wrestling. Eddie then goes onto Twitter and challenges Morrissey. And obviously, we now have this element of being able to challenge someone on social media. Do you like this style of integration of social media into wrestling now, where you can get a challenge on social media, you then bring it back onto the show, you speak about it, you solidify the match, and then also how you feel this match is going to go?
Yeah, I think if you don't have the proper airtime to tell the story, then you got to execute social media to kind of help push that narrative. I really like that. I think this is one of those ways that you actually do positively execute social media. A lot of people don't get that memo because a lot of the people don't seem to be that intelligent when it comes to social media, as we know Twitter is. But with that being said, I like WM Morrissey in Impact. I think he's given a new, fresh look here in Impact. Eddie Edwards, to me, just seems to be going down on my do I care about him thing ever since he lost the championship. I don't know about you guys, but it's just hard for me to kind of care about him in the sense of, is he ever going to get there again? And if he does, it just seems like it's nostalgic at this point. I think there's too much momentum on WM Morrissey. I think he is going to show you why he's the most dominant. So I'm going to stick with him, pinfall, just like the first one. I'll go with pinfall, but I do think WM Morrissey, it's going to be a coming out party for him tonight.
It could potentially be a celebration, as you say, of him, just to feature him. You're going up against a guy that is a seasoned talent in Impact Wrestling, one of the cornerstones of Impact Wrestling, certainly in terms of longevity alone, but also the amount of championships that he has won there. Dennis, are you leaning the same way as Chris is here when it comes to this match? Obviously, Chris hates Eddie Edwards. I think that's clear for everyone to see. He's got an agenda against him.
I don't hate him.
Huge agenda against him.
I just
Eddie,
want to see them be more creative
Chris
with him.
Thinks you stink. He thinks you shouldn't even be in this match. You have no chance whatsoever. No, I'm just messing with you.
You're supposed to be down the middle, not swaying the narrative here.
That's
what Earl Hebner.
That's what I think, guys. You know what? I actually agree with him that Morrissey will win this match. I don't think Eddie really has a chance. I disagree with the trajectory. There's ebbs and flows in wrestling, and sometimes you can't always stay on top. I think Eddie just kind of cycled down to the bottom, finding the character, finding his feet, and eventually he'll make his way back up top. Maybe it's an injury that'll open the door for him. But right now, his job is to put Morrissey over and make Morrissey look good, because you don't bring in a guy Morrissey's size to have him lose to Eddie Edwards on his very first pay-per-view. I think Morrissey is earmarked as a future champion in this organization, and you don't have a future champion losing to Eddie Edwards on your first show. Eddie can lose this match, and it doesn't hurt him one bit. We all know what Eddie Edwards can do. We all know how talented Eddie Edwards is. Morrissey, I think if he loses here, it really hurts him. Whether you take out his personal life or not, Morrissey hasn't had the best record in wrestling. So I think Morrissey needs this win. Morrissey will get this win, and by pinfall.
And that just rubber stamps that one. I think it's safe to say we can take that match to the bank. Dennis, I'm going to stick with you with the next match, and it's the Knockouts Tag Team titles. And, as it was announced, Fire and Flavor, they will be defending their Knockouts championships against Rosemary and Havoc. Now, obviously, on last week's episode of Impact Wrestling, there was a number one contenders match. Rosemary and Havoc defeated Susan and Kimberly. Now, I want you to obviously give your predictions on this one, but maybe touch on, Susan and Kimberly. They kind of had a storyline going with the TNA Women's Champion, and then they come into this number one contenders match. They lose. Where do they go from there? Because I know there was a lot of interest in Kimberly, especially when I was interacting with people on Twitter.
Well, I look at this and I think as talented and phenomenal as the women's division is, you can't have too many women's tag teams right now because it's still small compared to other organizations. I think those two were kind of paired together to make another tag team look good, which was Havoc and Rosemary. I think we may differ on this one, Chris. I'm going with Rosemary and Havoc for the win in this pay-per-view. I really think they have the momentum going in. It's time for a change. Now, could Fire and Flavor get those tag team titles back during the TV tapings on the next show? Maybe, but I think it's time for a change. And I don't want to give too many of my predictions away, but I don't see too many title changes in this card. So you have to kind of have one on what their second biggest pay-per-view of the year, Slammiversary. I think this is going to be that. Give me Havoc and Rosemary.
And does the crowd play into this thought process at all? You still?
I still don't think it will. I don't think anybody has the foresight right now to know. And it's such a small crowd in a soundstage. I don't think that there's going to be that pop, that loudness, unless they still filter crowd noise in, which I hope they will, because I will be there. And they didn't release the numbers. My guess is it's under 150 people that are going to be in attendance.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, Chris, even more interesting than that, we want to know from you, is this the first match that you guys differ? Is this the first match that's probably going to be one of the differentials between you guys? Obviously, Dennis has gone with and new champions. Are you going #and still?
I'm going # wait for the end of my response. Hang on. So here's something that I really wanted to put out. We know that we're in July right now. This is 3 months, more than 3 months, I believe, after the April cuts for WWE, correct? And I believe the Iconics were cut in April, correct?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
I would not be surprised if we see Flava and Flav and the Iconics stare down each other at some point in this pay-per-view, if that's the case, because I think that's a money match that people would be wanting to see. Not to mention, the Iconics would be foolish not to go to Impact. Just because that's where other than WWE, who else has knockout or women tag team championships? Also, I do not get sometimes this booking of these titles, because as soon as they put it on Jordynne Grace and I'm trying to remember the chick's name. She was with, who's the one with Jordynne Grace?
Kimberly? Was it? No, that was the other team.
No, AOP's manager's daughter.
Ellering.
Oh,
Ellering, yeah. A buddy of mine is obsessed with this girl, so he'd probably slap me in the face for not remembering, but whatever. Goldfish memory. Anyway, I didn't understand why they got it and then they flipped the titles back. So part of me wonders if they're going to do this. So I wouldn't be against your opinion on this, Dennis. I think that makes a lot of sense given how seems to be some too much shock and awe with these championships, especially secondary championships. But with that being said, I have a feeling that we might see Flavor and Flav continue on, because it's either they're going to retain the titles and go back to Ellering and Jordynne Grace, to where we see that a potential split with that match, or we see the debuting Iconics setting up a future match between those two and Flavor and Flav. That's kind of where I see it. Just like I see earlier, I think that with a win with Morrissey, I think Morrissey and Moose could be an eventual matchup for Impact. This is kind of my trajectory for this. So yes, I'm going hashtag and still. So you do have a different answer.
Oh, that is awesome. We got our first differential answer here. And just in terms of calculations, the Iconics were released, if I'm not mistaken, on the 15th of April. That would mean 90 days from there is the 14th of July. And obviously this pay-per-view, 17th of July.
And that's why I also use Jordan Grace and Ellering there, because with them patching back up right now, it only makes sense that they're going to target knockout tag titles. So maybe we see them again. Either way, like I don't like a thrown together tag team, kind of like, because Havoc and Rosemary are not a full-fledged tag team, correct?
No.
I mean, this just seems too WWE, and Impact just seems too like a little smarter than WWE with this. I could be wrong. I don't watch the show. You guys can correct me there, but I don't know. Like, why not just keep it on your mainstay right now until you have something big lined up? Because, again, the Iconics, that'd be pretty big, big ad for TNA or Impact.
I'll tip my toe into the fantasy book in here, where the only way it makes sense is if the Iconics do come, the Iconics or Flavor would be the ones to take it off, let them set up Rosemary and Havoc as the potential losers, because then you could, over the summer, draw out a interesting rivalry between the other two tag teams where, Havoc and Rosemary will just kind of be the stopgap, just the placeholders until one of these two teams come out on top.
Yeah,
and I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
If the Iconics, for example, were to cost Fire and Flavor the championships, let's say they're the ones that distract them, Rosemary and Havoc get the pinfall, they take the titles. At least then the Fire and Flavor can always say, we never really lost the championships. It's because of you guys, and that could then start a feud later down the line. I think I'm kind of meshing both of your guys' ideas together and trying to fantasy book that way. Chris, what do you reckon?
It's pro wrestling. If you don't know how to book something and go multiple different ways, then you honestly shouldn't be a booker in pro wrestling, in my opinion, because you need to have those swerves and you need to have that misdirection. I mean, that's why some people gravitate towards, like, the Sons of Anarchy show, because as soon as you think you can see the end game, boom, you just get nailed and it goes somewhere else, and then eventually it goes back there, and that's what makes exciting, compelling storytelling. So I don't disagree with what you guys have, as long as it's good. Like, to me, it's as long as you do it well. I don't care how you do it. I don't care who wins, who loses necessarily. To me, a competitor is much bigger than a win and a loss. It's all depend on performance and execution to me.
Interesting stuff. And speaking of, someone coming in, someone being a distraction, something, someone debuting, something new, we could maybe swing it towards something being brought back. And I'm speaking about Ultimate X is obviously going to be returning at Slammiversary. We've got Josh Alexander, the current champion. He'll be defending the X Division title in an Ultimate X match. And it's going to be against Trey Miguel, Ace Austin, Chris Bay, Rohit Raju, and some guy called Petey Williams. That's it.
Petey.
Dennis, obviously,
you hate a pirate, buddy.
You've got a stake in this one. How are you going to be picking in this? I'm very interested to hear your perspective on how you think this match is going to go. Obviously, Petey Williams, you know him really, really well. Are you going to be backing him in this match, or are you going to go against your buddy?
Oh, backing and predictions are two different things.
Are you for or against Petey?
Petey doesn't have a chance, or Petey does not. I love him. And that would have been nice to celebrate, hold the X Division champion, my friends, but it's not going to happen. Josh Alexander will retain the belt in this match. He is the future of the company. I know. You know what? If you look at his trajectory, he is the future champion. Despite what happens after this pay-per-view. I personally, if I was booking this match, I think it would be fun to have them drop it in a weird way, because this is one of those matches you don't have to be involved with, and then have them win it maybe the next night during the TV tapings. But that I don't think will happen. I think Josh Alexander retains. The rest of these guys are there for the high spots and make it look good. So Josh will take the Ultimate X.
Awesome stuff. And obviously, Petey, I wish you luck in this one. And I'm just messing. I mean, look, I'm going to be going for Petey in this one. I'm going to throw it out there. I just thought it was too good. You kind of threw that one down the middle for me. We have Dennis Farrell on the show. You got Petey Williams competing in an Ultimate X match. I mean, it was just perfect. But Chris, come on, join me in Petey's corner. Dennis has abandoned his good friend.
Come on, Chris.
He's about. How are you feeling?
Well, I mean,
about this one?
Sean Ross Sapp did say we're going to have two debuting superstars, and Petey Williams might be one of them. But you know what? I'm going to go with a Canadian. I'm just not going to go with that Canadian. I do think it's a hashtag, and still. I do want to think I think this match is going to come down to three people: Ace Austin, and it's going to come to Chris Bay, who I think TNA or Impact. I always call him TNA. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it's hard to keep up with name changes all the time. But at the same time, like it's and Josh Alexander, like those are my three. Like if those aren't your heavy favorites in this match, then you are worse at watching the product than I am, in my opinion. But I think those are the three big studs in this match, and I think it's really going to come down to probably Josh and Bay, just because those two probably are the future of Impact Wrestling. I would love to see Josh Alexander be the guy that dethroned Kenny Omega for the Impact Championship, so that's why I wouldn't be against him dropping this title, but part of me loves the fact that he's X Division champion going into a match with Omega, who's just collecting every strap there is. And that's the reason why Omega could take that match. I think that's a very interesting dynamic and a good selling point to it. But I do think eventually we'll see Josh Alexander and Omega at some point. I think that's just a match they should do just for Josh Alexander. But yeah, no, I'm going in still. And spoiler, he's just going to grab the title. No pinfall, no submission.
That's a bold call. I mean, that one that came from left field. And speaking of Omega and collecting belts and the multiple people that he has fought, one person he did fight recently was Moose, and Moose is going to be going up against Chris Sabin this coming week on the pay-per-view. Chris, how are you feeling? Are you going with your namesake here in Chris Sabin?
I would love to, however. Because I personally don't like Moose. That's a whole different discussion, so we won't even get there. But I have a feeling Moose is going to pick up the win here. I actually did watch the interaction. I think it was Dreamer, Sabin, and Moose, and they just made it look like Moose might go rogue and do his own thing. So Sabin just seems to be in the crossfire of something not his. So I think if you're going to do something with Moose, you really kind of deflate his momentum if you don't give him the win here. I think Sabin is, just that roadblock right now. But I think Moose is too much of a monster, too much of a perception of he was just the champion. So, I mean, how much more down does he go with a loss? I think a lot. I think he stands to lose a lot with a loss here, and I don't think they'll do that. I think Moose just signed that new contract, and usually in pro wrestling, if you show some loyalty to the company, you tend to get a little bit of loyalty back. I mean, Josh Alexander could have been a perfect scenario with Paige leaving and he didn't, so there you go. But yeah, I think Moose here, and I think this might be the shortest match of the night. I'm going to go that way.
Dennis, I can see the wheels turning in your head here. Well, what are you thinking for this one?
Well, Chris is spot on, honestly. I think Moose wins. But if there were two matches I see on this card where there could be a surprise, it's Sabin Moose, because that doesn't make sense. Nobody really thinks Sabin has a chance. And it's Eddie Edwards and Morrissey. Those are the two matches that scream maybe surprise if they can get one. I mean, I don't think, looking at this card and looking who's out there, that Impact will bring in too many male wrestlers right now, because all the real good ones have been snatched up already, or their 90 days are not up until after this pay-per-view. Listen, I'm going to have to agree with them. I'm going Moose. But, just for shits and giggles here, guys, if there's a match where there's an interference and Moose gets cost, this is going to be that match, I think. But I'm going Moose for the win over Chris Sabin. Chris Sabin can lose and lose and lose. He's like P.D. Williams. They don't have to win, and people still love him. And I don't think this hurts Chris Sabin one bit and take a pinfall here.
Yeah, Chris Sabin to me, I think, and I want your guys' opinions because you guys watch this product more than me. Chris Sabin seems to be maybe without necessarily the consistent success of this comparison, but he could be the Johnny Gargano of Impact Wrestling in my eyes. When I see him and see just what he means, like he's that small underdog that everybody just attaches to. They love him so much love. I wished him and Shelley would have gone to NXT because that would have been just to my delight. But I have a lot of space for Chris Sabin, and I do think he doesn't need a win here. Like he's too good of a performer where a loss affects him, in my opinion.
I agree.
Yeah, and Dennis, do you see him? Chris is mentioning Gargano there. Do you see Sabin as someone that is one, small feud away from then being thrown into a championship feud, kind of like what NXT does with Gargano, where if he does take a back seat for a little bit, he just needs one small thing and he's already back in that title picture?
I mean, Chris Sabin is probably, if not the guy on that roster that can go, and that can go from bottom of the roster, top of the roster in a snap. I mean, he's one of the, PD and him are one of the original TNA guys that are still left in this group. I can't see how you can't say that with a guy like him. I mean, it looks like he's going to be a singles guy for a very long time. He's thriving. Champion, I think there are too many other names on this roster that deserve to be champion, but Chris Sabin is the guy you can throw in that match to make those guys look good, to make it believable that maybe Chris Sabin can win this match. He's not going to win this match, no.
But he'll tell a hell of a story doing it. And we move on to the next match, and I'm going to change this around. We were going to have Kenny Omega versus Sami Callihan as sort of the main event of this match, but I'm going to move it around because obviously what happened on Impact this past week with Deonna Purrazzo's opponent being a surprise, and I kind of want to sit back and hear your guys' thoughts on who you think is going to be the surprise there. So we'll move on to Kenny Omega versus Sami Callihan. Finally, Sami Callihan is able to get his hands on Omega. He's going to be able to go after that championship. I mean, Omega's been dodging and diving and ducking and doing everything he can. Obviously, Don Callis in tow. They had quite a few funny segments on there. Callihan getting arrested, but then not being arrested. Dennis, how are you feeling for this match? Obviously, Chris mentions the belt collectors going after belts. Do you think he's ready to lose a belt yet?
I do. And you know what? We may disagree here, but I think Sami Callihan wins this match. You have AEW starting a tour now, which will take up a lot more Kenny Omega's time. You have Kenny Omega dealing with a lot of injuries, and you can't have Kenny Omega defeat two top Impact stars and make that company look bad. Now, if this was a 50-50 timeshare where you had Impact guys popping up on AEW television, I'd say, yeah, maybe keep going. But since this has been heavily one-sided, I really think this is kind of where you see the end of this whole, I wouldn't say end of the partnership, but end of this storyline. Sami Callihan puts an end to it. I think Omega's going to need the rest going on tour. I don't know if they plan on doing any sort of house shows, but it seems like every show now in AEW is going to be a special branded show for the next month or so. Kenny's going to be busy. Sami needs to take the belt to bring it back home. I think Sami Callihan wins this match by pinfall.
Dare you say that it's coming home?
I think it's coming home. I think the belt
coming home. Obviously, being in London, come on, England. Yeah, the Euros are coming home. I thought I'll just throw that one in there. Chris, do you think that Sami Callihan is going to be bringing the belt back to Impact Wrestling, or will Kenny Omega be spoiling the party in this one?
So do you remember when I was saying, like, a good storytelling, you think you're going to go this way, something else happens, and eventually you go back? Well, hearing you saying that it's all about the strap collectors, I will not call it the B word because it is not. It's a title, it's a championship, or it's a strap. A belt is what you wear around your waist to keep the pants up because you couldn't buy proper fitting clothing. But so I never thought Kenny Omega was going to win this match. However, I don't think it's going to be a clean win on Sami Callihan's part, and nor should it. Sami Callihan does not care about winning a clean, dirty, whatever. The past has proven that he is, I think, as close to a Steve Austin without going Steve Austin that Impact is probably going to ever have a guy where he is just that against everything. But I have a feeling we might see Hangman Page cost Kenny Omega the championship to help sell their match. And I only say that because I don't think Andrade El Idolo will show up to help promote their AAA match. I don't think they'll use Impact as a platform. They have it on AEW already. Hangman Page, I think, could be a surprise for the Impact audience, costing Omega, because now Kenny Omega would have a reason to want to actually engage with them on show. So I am going with Sami Callihan, bringing the championship back to Impact Wrestling with the help of a Hangman.
And, you know, when people mention speaking something into existence, I hope to God that you've just spoken something into existence if they hadn't been thinking about doing this. Because, Dennis, to me, that sounds absolutely fantastic.
I can't disagree. I think something will happen. I seriously don't know. That makes the most sense in all honesty, Chris. You know, I agree with you. I don't see anything from AAA popping in. Boy, maybe this is a way to break the Good Brothers up too. I don't know, but you know, going forward, now that things are coming back to normal, I think they had a good working relationship. You know, we had Scott D'Amore on a few months ago, and he kind of confirmed that it was kind of icy and a little bit shaky at times, and nobody wants to step on each other's feet. I think the experiment went well enough, although I'd love to have seen it more two-sided, but I think this is just the end of it. I don't know. The Hangman makes sense if you can get him out there, if he even wants to do it. You know, there are some wrestlers that have said that, you know, we're not doing the Forbidden Door thing, and it's understandable. I you know, win, lose, or draw, Sami Callihan wins.
I got a question for you guys before we move on, because it just seems like this whole relationship between AEW and TNA doesn't really seem to make sense, really, for Impact. We also saw not too long ago Impact Wrestling had one of the lowest ratings that they've ever had on one of their shows. Kenny Omega was the champion at that time, and I don't know if this is just the old school in me thinking this might be a blame to Kenny Omega directly because he's supposed to be the guy that helped with this thing. I personally have always thought that weekly television kind of wrecked Kenny Omega. He was always more of a theatrical performer than a weekly guy. But does the whole Kenny Omega experiment on Impact Wrestling change because of that one show and that low rating? Because as the champion, as the focal name coming the other way, that really should play a little bit of a red flag to the peoples to be in Impact Wrestling, I think.
You know, in my opinion, there are two ways you can look at this. If AEW did a better job of promoting the relationship between the two, maybe the ratings would go up because it would drive people over. If people don't know where to look or what to see, then it doesn't matter. You could have Kenny Omega on all 2 hours of Impact TV and it won't matter anything. Oh, I think the majority of wrestling fans are not on social media or on Twitter, so they don't really keep up with the Twitter or the Instagram banter. I know I didn't for the longest time, and I still don't a lot of times. Like, some of that stuff just passes me by, and every time you see two guys arguing on Twitter, you think, yeah, they're trying to pull the wool over my eyes. On the other side, I think a lot of times that the diehard Impact fans are rebelling against a Kenny Omega because he's an outsider. There isn't that working relationship. And I think a lot of the fans think, all right, well, I don't want to watch if this guy's showing up on my TV because he's not Impact. And the one thing I've learned about Impact fans is they are the most rabid fans. Like, WWE, you come and go and you watch here and there. Same thing with Ring of Honor. I think Impact fans are small but loyal to a fault.
And I have to agree with you there. And I think I don't necessarily blame Kenny himself. I blame AEW, to be honest. I mean, it's small things like having Rich Swann appearing on one of your shows. It doesn't even have to be a 2-hour segment. It doesn't have to be a 30-minute segment. At least have a vignette. At the very least, Kenny Omega is going after the Impact title. Have a vignette from a guy who he's going up against. Let people know this is where you can go watch the match. I don't think at one point in time AEW actually even mentioned where people could go and watch the match. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I personally don't remember it. So I don't think necessarily it's Kenny's fault. I think it's more AEW not really promoting anything from their end.
The reason why I ask is because don't you think this might have been a little bit more mainstream if a guy like, say, Chris Jericho was in the Kenny Omega spot than maybe Kenny Omega himself? And I say that not because it's a slant against Kenny Omega, not because it's a direct shot against him, but he's just not the kind of star that a lot of people seem to build him up to be, because there is a different kind of level of a star from a Kenny Omega than a Chris Jericho, in my opinion. I think Chris Jericho is the biggest name in pro wrestling today, not just Impact or AEW. I think when you look at his just what he does, like, he's the most oh my god kind of guy. He could show up, like, people lost their provable shit when he went on the Broken Skull sessions with Steve Austin. And to me, I just think maybe they either picked the wrong guy, but at the same time, TNA, if they didn't get the exposure on AEW, like that, yes, like you're right, like that did not help them, but at the same time, I just don't think it makes Kenny Omega and the AEW champion look good when he's not drawing on another show where that's the intended purpose, I think.
I think anybody else, it would have been a different situation. If this was John Moxley, people would tune in and watch. If this, and Jericho, of course, just about anybody else. I think this was kind of cool. It might have made for a great buzz in a time where the industry was down and we were locked in our homes. But now that we're getting back together, I think it's just time to split them up and go their own separate way.
Yeah, and we will see what the outcome of this one is. But I do like that shot of Hangman being involved, costing him the title, giving them a reason to now have that championship match in AEW and have Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page. But, Kenny's gone and beaten almost everyone in his path. And he mentioned as much in his promo this past week on AEW. And there's another person in wrestling at the moment that has gone through everyone. It's Deonna Purrazzo. She has been fantastic as the Impact Women's Champion. Now, I'm going to throw it to you guys because on last week's episode of Impact, she comes out, she mentions, and she rightfully mentions, she's been through everyone. There's no one left for her to take on. Gail Kim comes out, and I'm thinking, whoa, hang on. What's going on here? But unfortunately, she says, no, I'm still retired, but I've got an opponent for you, and it's going to be a surprise. You won't know who it is until, their entrance music hits pretty much. Dennis, first and foremost, could Gail Kim turn around and just make it herself? I mean, that's a possibility, right?
No,
don't crush my dreams. Don't crush my dreams.
I don't think it's Gail Kim. I think the big surprise will be a female, just because there seems to be slightly an abundance of them still out on the market. And you know what? I'm whether you want to call her, Laurel Van Ness, or you want to call her, Chelsea Green, that's who I think this is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good shot. And what I'll ask you to do, I'm going to go to Chris as well on his one. But if you guys can give me who you think it's going to be, and then maybe a wild card person as well. Just we'll let the who you think it's going to be count for the bonus points for the championship. But also, I'm interested to see a wild card one as well, just to see where you guys are thinking. I'll give you time to think on that one, Dennis. But Chris, in terms of I
just want to point out that I think it's a very astute opinion of you, Dennis, to say that the challenger of the Impact Women's Knockout Championship will be a woman. Like various. I thought that was really funny.
I did my homework.
Chris,
That
which
could not have gone unnoticed. That had to have been said.
which person do you think will be?
I think it's Chelsea Green. I
Green.
100% think it's Chelsea Green. And I know Luis in the comments says that Deonna has that match against. Yeah, there you go. And I don't think Deonna's going to lose this match. Like, I think she's going to retain the championship. There's just too much money to keep her as the female focal point of Impact Wrestling. They've hit a gold mine with her right now, and they're really silly to take the championship off right now. There needs to be a real build. It still very well could be a Chelsea Green down the road, but this isn't the way you do it. This is a way to get that good pop and a good shock, and it's like, oh my God, she's back. This is awesome. And that feeling and that emotion from the fans, but you don't change the championship off this right now. This isn't a Santino Marella coming out of the crowd winning the IC title kind of moment. That's not what you do. I would have loved to be Mickie James because I have all the time in the world for Mickie James. I think it's a slap in the face that she's not in the Hall of Fame and the Bellas are. But that's not the topic right now. But with that being said, like, it's just that it'd be really great if they, took Mickie James out from the grave and came back to Impact Wrestling. But no, it's Chelsea Green. I mean, Chelsea Green makes too much sense here.
Well, I petition that then we make our wild card pick a points count, and if we both have the same name.
Oh, you're both thinking Mickie James?
No, we're not for my wild card, no. But
okay.
Make our wild card points count.
Okay, yeah. Seeing as you've both gone with Laurel Van Ness for the normal one, let's throw a wild card out there, and I'll, having it being mentioned after you've already thrown Mickie James out there, Chris, I'll give you an opportunity to change that answer if you do want to, or you can lock it in as well. But in terms of wild card, Dennis, you are chomping at the bit to scream a name out. Who you got written down there?
I have Taylor Wilde written down here. She's a girl that's been off TV for a while. She came back for one of the TV tapings, got hyped up, had some issues, had to disappear for the last TV tapings. She's already on the roster. She pops out. If she loses this match, it doesn't hurt her, and Deonna still wins, but you still get that happy-go-lucky pop. I'm going Taylor Wilde.
All right, Chris, are you sticking with Mickie James? What are you feeling here?
I just said I would love to see Mickie James because I just like to see anything positive happen to her. I think she's one of the best female wrestlers of all time, not just of our generation or time, like of her era. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't also be against it being Jordynne Grace, to be honest. I don't think it needs to be somebody that's debuting or coming back. I think if you always look through that one door, you're overlooking the people that are already there. And Jordynne Grace has a presence about her, and it's like Deonna and Jordynne Grace could put on a banger of a match too. So my wild card is Jordynne Grace, but my actual prediction is Chelsea Green.
And that would be fantastic to have Laurel Van Ness back on Impact Wrestling. I think she was horribly misused on, especially main roster. She wasn't even used when it comes to WWE product.
Schindler couldn't write a list on who was misused in WWE.
Fair enough. In terms of my predictions, I think for my wild card, I went with someone who I think could help elevate Deonna's championship reign, but could still take a loss. And with the Forbidden Door still kind of open, I went with Hikaru Shida. I think Hikaru could take the loss, but it would still be kind of a big match. Like, are they really going to put the belt on Hikaru? That's going to be a good match between those two. And then you kind of just let Deonna solidify, I'm still the champion. If she wants to cut a promo on how Kenny came here and took the title, but you tried to do it again with Hikaru Shida and you couldn't do it because I'm just that damn good. I think she could cut a promo like that as well. But yeah, just a bit of fun. I thought Hikaru Shida would be a nice wild card there. In terms of who I actually think it's going to be, I think it's going to be Mickie James. I just think it would be fun to see her get her moment. I know you picked her as the wild card. I think it's going to happen, damn it. I think,
That'd be a kick in the dick for me if I said her name and went somewhere else, and it would be her. I mean, wow. That's probably what's going to happen, too, because this world is against me.
Oh, it would be fun. It would be fun. But guys, thank you so much for joining me for this predictions show. I had a blast. I learned a lot, especially with Impact Wrestling. Having Dennis here, it's absolute pleasure. Chris, you were awesome as well. I do love the logic that you bring into your booking as well. I look, if your card, and no offense to Dennis, but if Chris's card plays out here, I think it would be a fantastic show. But in terms of who will be moving on from this show, we will obviously reveal that the Crazy Wicked Pinfalls episode after the pay-per-view has been done. We will send it to the suits upstairs. They will tally the votes. They will give the percentages. Dennis.
Tad, I want to throw this back on you. What is your prediction on who goes to the next round? Yeah. Oh yeah. I want to know. What is your
Let me have a look here. So in terms of differentials, we've got Fire and Flavor for Chris, whereas Havoc and Rosemary for Dennis.
Go with me. I went with the black vote. Come on. I'm trying to go full Obama here. Let's go.
I mean,
I need it.
This is going to be tough.
I know.
I think Chris is going to cause an upset. I'm going to go with the upset victory here. Sorry, Dennis.
That's undisputed, baby. Hey, Dennis, I'm going to say this, though. You beat me. A gentleman's handshake. Great job. And I will cheer for you on your way to the win. I won't even cheer. If it's you against Spencer, I will cheer for you.
I'm going to say this. The champion of this whole bracket comes out of me and you, I think. I said this 3 or 4 times during this podcast. You and I are the running favorites to win it all.
I think you guys are definitely strong.
I mean, my cardio is getting better, so I mean.
It's a long tournament.
It goes 1.5 liters of chocolate milk, and I'm done, by the way. So the whole thing.
Wow. Yeah. In 52 minutes. That is amazing. Right? But this tournament goes all the way to WrestleMania next year, which will be the finals. So you better get your stamina, you better get your cardio in check. This obviously being a first.
It's all light beer from here. All light beer from here.
Last bourbon, boys.
No hops because I can't risk it. I got to go straight from the keg.
I think that is a sound tactic. But guys, Chris, where can people find you on social media, or do you have anything that you want to plug, put over, or promote before we wrap up?
Thank you for the opportunity, by the way. I appreciate that. And again, thanks for having me in case I am, as per usual, like out in the first round. But if I'm not, then oh God, are you guys sorry? But you can find me on social media on the Facebook. Friend me. Like my fan page. It's all good. Twitter, it's at Chris Parrish. On Instagram, it's at Chris.Parrish. On the Twitch, it's the Chris Parrish. Always make sure you follow lovewrestling.ca, and you can find all the great stuff there. Again, thank you so much. And please, just because I start again with independent wrestling tomorrow, please go out and support independent pro wrestling. You'll never know who's going to be the star of the next 10 years. Funny enough, the company I work for in Edmonton, first show I went, first guy that came out of the entrance, Kenny Omega. Who would have thought?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. We had fun. Guys, go check out Love Wrestling. As Chris has said, fantastic stuff that they're doing there. Dennis, do you have anything you want to plug, put over, or promote before we wrap up?
I do, but I will say I'm absolutely a fan of Love Wrestling. I do listen to it on iTunes. So thank you so much for entertaining me. So I will say that, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. That's not like a snarky little thing, but I am a fan. Listen, go watch and listen to my podcast, Wrestling Perspective Podcast. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's actual gear, baby.
Look at that. Listen, go watch Wrestling Perspective podcast. It's hosted by myself, Lars Fredrickson from the band Rancid, Dimitri Young, former MLB All-Star, Darren McCarty, 4-time Stanley Cup champion, Petey Williams, past guests. We've had everybody from CM Punk to MJF on. Future guests, we have Aleister Black set to come on. We have one of the guys from Avenged Sevenfold. We have, Eddie Edwards. We just had last night Taylor Wilde. So please go check it out. Rate, subscribe, download, and tell them you watch me here. We'll give you guys a shout out.
Awesome stuff. And Chris, obviously, if people want to go and leave comments on iTunes and stuff like that, I'm sure that stuff really helps out. Same for Dennis as well. All of the podcasts, all of the stuff that they've mentioned, guys, go follow their social media handles. Go and like their podcasts on any of the platforms that they mentioned. Go write comments. That stuff really helps the stuff get a lot of exposure, and it goes a long way. They've been fantastic coming on here, showing us some love, showing us some support. So I hope you guys are able to return the favor to them. Throwback mentioning on the chat that I need to mention that there is a second chance match. So you might not be out. I think there might be a second chance match that might happen for the person that has the highest percentage of correct answers of the losers in the first round. So Dennis, you keep saying it, but it could happen where this could end up being the finals.
In the words of Lloyd Christmas, so you're saying there's a chance.
Maybe I'll lose on purpose just to surprise everybody in the championship round.
Oh, what are you, the Tampa Bay Lightning mayor? Oh, we should lose just so we can win it at home. Like, nobody should lose.
And by the way, thank you for Throwback for doing this whole thing. I don't know another podcast out there doing anything like this. So whether Chris's fans or my fans are watching this live or pre-recorded, make sure you go out and support this channel, because this is a channel that's doing some great things for people that may not have the platform to podcast, or for the fans. They are very interactive, and I can't say enough good things about what Throwback and you guys are doing with this community.
Huge thank you for that. And I think Chris and I endorse that 100%. Throwback has thrown up an awesome tournament. I mean, there's a freaking belt that someone's going to win at the end of this. And I mean,
pocket
strap.
Who doesn't love championship belts? And obviously I can't win because I'm not in this tournament. I'm the referee. And trust me, if I was in this tournament, it would be over. It would be a wrap. They wouldn't even have a tournament. Throwback said,
"You'll flip up the bird and go full Shane McMahon, and then not."
I'll just throw the shirt off, grab the title, make a run for it. It would be over. Maybe next year. We'll see.
Let me ask you this, Dad. Are you keeping your predictions for all the shows to see how you do against everybody else?
I am, and I only reveal them when I do really well. But yes, Yes, I do. And funny enough, if there are people that do want to send predictions that are competing, so if Dennis, if you see Money in the Bank is coming up, you obviously not in that match, but you've got predictions, you can send them to me. And what I'm doing is I've got an Excel spreadsheet with predictions for everyone. And I know Drew sent me some of his predictions, and basically his gimmick was, well, I would have won that first round match. I would have won that first round match. I would have won that first. And he's claiming he would have just clean swept everyone if he had to beat everyone in the first round.
Well, I don't know who I'm facing in the second round yet. I'm excited to find out. But
we got to find out who loses in the other first rounds.
I was going to say, you're very confident that you're getting through the first round here, Dennis.
Someone has to be that guy, right? I mean, if I lose, though, Chris is the guy I would rather lose to in this whole tournament, in all fairness.
So it would be bound for glory.
You say that, but I don't think you realize how big my mouth actually is.
I will.
I'm an Oiler and a Saints fan. I mean, come on now.
I will take whatever comes my way if I lose, but you are the guy I'd rather lose to, because I don't even know who Drew is. I see him mouthing off about some sort of head of the table, but he's only head of the kids table. So,
oh, interesting. Well, you would meet Drew in not the next round, but the round after that.
He won't even make that far.
But in terms of the next competitor that you guys could meet, it's either going to be.
I feel like
Rob
I've been out of the
Wilkins-
ring for more than 10. I already feel like I'm counted out here.
It'll be Rob Wilkins or JJ, because they're going to be doing the August 21st payback predictions, and then the winner of that will be facing one of you guys for the Bound of Glory predictions. So we're keeping an impact with you guys in the next round as well. But yeah, as I said, guys,
The
it's
odds
been
are
fun.
really. This is going to be against all odds for me.
It's an
I'll
underdog
even
story.
throw in an impact reference there.
The boyhood dream has come true. It's a proper underdog story if you can make it all the way through.
It wouldn't be the first prediction championship I won on WrestleMania. Hint, hint, but I love wrestling. Oh, I won that one at WrestleMania. So I win when it counts.
Interesting stuff. Guys, before we head off, is there anything else you want to say?
Good luck, Chris. There's nobody else I'd rather be facing in the first round than you. This should be fun.
Yeah, if anybody thought there was beef here, then make sure that you barbecue it and serve it up to us because I am hungry. But with that being said, with all this COVID stuff happening, I think the one thing we all need to learn is just how to support one another and be nice and help everyone when they fall down. Because if that's not what you took out of this, then there's something wrong with you. There really is. But I mean, man, it's so nice just to be able to do this. So again, thank you guys so much for having me. Throwback, thank you very much for including me. I could not be more grateful and humbled to be a part of this thing. So good luck to you, Dennis, as well. And Ted, thank you for officiating down the middle. Yeah, you're. If I was to say your reffing, your officiating was like Andy Moog's stick. And yes, I expect Dennis to get that reference. But no, with that being said, in all honesty, thank you guys. This was a blast. Hope to do it again. Maybe this could be a final.
This could be a final, and I'll be
maybe that main event prediction was correct.
Oh, that would be interesting. And as we said, guys, please go check out all of the stuff these guys are involved in. Their Twitter handles are on their names underneath, and we will tweet them with the link. Go check out Chris when you guys get a chance to go watch and support independent wrestling. Go check out the podcast that Dennis is doing. They have fantastic interviews all the time. I'm always fascinated just listening to the way you guys are able to engage with some of the wrestling talent and outside talent and get a different perspective from them. So that is always fun. And before I say goodbye, Dennis, give me the eyes like you've got one more thing to say here.
Tad, you've never listened to a minute of my show. I love you, buddy.
Why you got to go behind the fourth wall, buddy? Why you got to go behind the fourth wall?
You
don't worry about it.
You threw it out, and I was like, Tad, that's cute. I love you, buddy. That was cute.
I will go listen right now.
No, you won't.
Okay. Okay, that's it. Cut it. We're done. Thanks so much for listening, guys.